someone been diagnosed with cancer after using Zantac or other heartburn medications for several months. Zantac may be linked to these cancers: bladder, colorectal, esophageal, intestinal, kidney, liver, ovarian, pancreatic, stomach, testicular, and uterine. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with cancer after using Zantac or other heartburn medications for several months, call now. Never stop taking medication without first consulting a physician. Call right now for a free consultation. Call 800-379-9550. 800-379-9550. Eastern Carolina's home for high school sports. Sports Talk 960. Good to be with you guys on a Sunday. And now, man, I feel like every time I talk about the injury bug in the NBA, come back from break and somebody else is getting hurt. P.J. Tucker now down for the Milwaukee Bucks. P.J. Tucker, one of several former Houston Rockets, is in the NBA postseason. If you're in a city whose team is still alive in the playoffs, God bless you. You're getting to watch these games, get together with friends on the weekend, have some beverages, cheer for your team. I know what that's like. We got to do that the last 8 years in Houston. This year, we are preparing for the lottery on June 22nd like it's the LSAT. And we're watching, literally, a player or executive for every single team but Utah fall out in the NBA playoffs. And I love P.J. Tucker. If I could root for any of those former Rockets, it would be P.J. Tucker. He just went down with what looks like an injury. I can't tell if it's a leg, but they went to commercial. The reason why that's important to this game is because with Kyrie Irving going down, Kevin Durant is being asked to really shoulder the entire load from a star power standpoint for the Brooklyn Nets. Kyrie Irving went down with about 6 minutes to go in the half. And since then, Durant had to really take things on himself. He had 3 turnovers, missed 2 3-pointers. He got blocked. He went to the free throw line, made 1 out of 2. Really little positive in that 6 minutes where it was just him and role players. In a long time, Kevin Durant had to play without another star on the floor with him, 4-3, when he was in Golden State. So the second half is underway. So the reason this P.J. Tucker injury, if he's out at all, is important. He was the one checking when he was having that series of bad possessions once Kyrie Irving went out. Hell, even the play got fouled on and went to the line and hit 1 out of 2. Very, very suspect call. It looked like P.J. Tucker got at Kevin Durant's shot and blocked it. And man, the reason why there's some juice with this matchup, obviously Tucker and Durant, both former Texas Longhorns. So there's that. But more recently, they were right up in each other's grills in Game 3. P.J. Tucker was right up in Kevin Durant's face, like literally during a stoppage, right up in his face, giving him the what for. So this can get very interesting here. We'll keep an eye on that. But the Bucks continue to lead the Nets early in the second half. I'm going on the record saying the Nets. Ankle turned into a 90-degree angle. Had I known Kyrie was going to twist his ankle, I wouldn't have been as positive in my prediction on the Brooklyn Nets. Nevertheless, I have to stick with it. Why? Because I actually put money down on this. I've got no choice. There's no turning back now. 855-212-4CBS. if you want to get in. We've not talked, I don't know if we've talked any football, NFL football on the show. I can't remember the last show. We've gotten to 3 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes into the show, and we haven't talked about any NFL. But we college football playoff in the NBA and ball doctoring and baseball have dominated today. And I guess we are in kind of that lull. You know, the Julio Jones trade went down a week ago, so we got to sink our teeth into the Julio Jones trade. And then Julio Jones is at minicamp for the Titans this week. Everybody was marveling at his footwork during these drills with no pads on. Oh, my God. And look at him in that jersey. He's wearing number 2. It's a single digit. Oh, it's incredible. By the way, I'm over the single digit thing being so badass. I thought it was badass, too. And then every player who switched to a single digit, we get these tweets like, that looks amazing. No, he's wearing number 2. It looks cool. All right. Maybe I'm just bitter because Julio Jones is in the same division as the team I root for now. That could very well be. I admit that. But probably the big news this week, and this is where we are on the NFL calendar, I suppose, is that that Mark Murphy, the president of the Packers, called Aaron Rodgers, quote, a complicated fella. This take is going to be more about how we consume stories like this than it is the actual story itself, because I don't know that there's a big story here. But it was positioned as a big story. It was positioned as such a big story of Mike Florio, story that Mike Florio went and did like 2,000 words about what this means to the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And if you read the headline, I suppose that it's been positioned as something that Murphy threw out there as some sort of salvo to be divisive. The headlines all read, Mark Murphy calls Rodgers, quote, a complicated fella. Which, when you position the headline that way, is set up to allow the human brain to go where it naturally wants to go to, where there's more controversy. He did? He called him a complicated fella? How is Aaron Rodgers going to take that? And then you read the story and you realize that it's actually a lot of headline porn going on. Packers president Mark Murphy, I'm now reading the story, addressed the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. It was during an event at some event at Lambeau Field. I don't know if it was for season ticket holders, if it was sponsors. Obviously, it was not some event that was televised, but there were media in there that reported on this. So it's not like he went on ESPN or did a sit-down interview, was asked about him, said Aaron Rodgers is a complicated fella. It was at an internal event at Lambeau Field. That's number 1. Here's the part where you realize, like, man, they can take something and turn it into something that sounds way more controversial than it really is. Murphy was addressing conversations he used to have with the late Ted Thompson, who was the Packers GM from 2005 to 2017. Quote, Murphy said, I'm often reminded of Ted Thompson, as most of you know, just a great general manager, passed away earlier this year. Ted Thompson often talked about Aaron that he pauses and says, it wasn't just Aaron, a lot of different players he would say this about. He would say, he's a complicated fella. So that's not something you get in the headline that, A, Murphy was just quoting something Ted Thompson used to say about Aaron Rodgers, and B, that Aaron Rodgers was not the only player he used to say that about. Like when you read, all you do is go read 2 paragraphs and you realize, okay, honestly, if this is something Aaron Rodgers is getting worked up about, then whatever. Then Mark Murphy and the Packers probably should just let him sit at home and stew about it. It's just Aaron Rodgers is kind of a complicated fella. Aaron Rodgers might even agree with that. Aaron Rodgers strikes me as somebody who actually would take that as a compliment, that he's a complicated fella. The dude hosted Jeopardy! So, yeah, that to me, that story is more just a lesson in, man, don't read a headline and then think this is some sort of nuclear bomb that Mark Murphy just dropped. It sounds to me like a throwaway quote at some event at Lambeau Field where he wasn't even really, he wasn't even generating a quote. He was quoting Ted Thompson. 855-212-4CBS if you want to get in. Let's go back to the phones to Amarillo, Texas. Frank, you're up on CBS Sports Radio. What's up?
Hello. Yes.
Hey, Frank.
Yeah, I was just calling about the Milwaukee Bucks game and the man.